everyone. Thank you all for being here. We are here today to talk about some pretty serious news. We have some guest with us who's going to speak in a few minutes. But before I bring him up, I just have a few remarks, and then I'll come back to the podium at the end. So from the very beginning of my time here in office, I have been very clear that we need to create a city hall that is grounded in care, driven by excellence, and built on trust. Before I came to this office, I spent time carefully defining those values for good reason. They guide how we lead in good times and in challenging times, and they require something essential from all of us: transparency. As elected officials, we owe it to our stakeholders and to the general public to provide factual and clear information, even when that information is hard. That is the foundation of public trust. Over the last few months, many people have asked me why I ran for this office and whether it has been what I expected it to be. And I remind them, and I remind myself, that I ran for mayor because I love the city of Erie, and I believe this community can be so much more than it already is. But I also ran because I had deep concerns about the city's financial future. And I was worried that ignoring these concerns in the short term would ensure that Erie would never reach its fullest potential and never become the city that our residents deserve it to be. As most of you know, the City of Erie has been working since January with Public Financial Management, PFM, to take a close, independent look at our finances. That independent review has led to the development of a 5-year financial outlook that shows not just where we are today, but where we're heading if we stay on this current path. And where we're heading really matters, because it isn't enough for us to make decisions today that will impact the city for my term or for as long as you live here. The choices we make today and over the next few months will determine where Erie will be in 10 years and in 20 years, and those choices will determine what kind of Erie we leave behind for our children and our children's children. I do want to thank the members of City Council who are here with me today. I think it's very important to note that we're standing here together with this message, and I want to thank them for joining me. And with that, I want to introduce Gordon Mann, PFM's Managing Director, who will share a very high-level overview of their findings on the city's 5-year outlook. Gordon?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you this morning. My name is Gordon Mann. I am from Public Financial Management, and as you can probably tell from our title, we are not a PR firm. We do what our title says. We work with cities and counties and school districts. We work here with the Erie School District and across the country to help communities solve their thorniest financial problems, and that's what we are here to talk about today, because Erie does have some problems that we need to solve. So this is not my first time in Erie. I see some familiar faces. I was here in 2019 and in 2020 when we released a multi-year financial plan, and if any of you have exceptionally good memories, you may remember that at that time we had talked about the city facing what we called a three-headed dragon in terms of its finances. So the first head was a large increase in debt service, paying for money that was borrowed. The second head was what we call a structural deficit, where revenues for most Pennsylvania governments, Erie not at all unique in this regard, revenues grow slower than expenses. And the third head was related to employee pension plans, where the city was putting too little money into the employee pension plans, which was similar to paying less than the minimum amount on your credit card bill every month that it's due. You never catch up, and it only gets larger and larger over time. We come here today because we finished the first step in our analysis that we did back in 2019 and now have redone, which is looking at the financial projection going forward. The mayor said something very important. She said, this is the projection of what will happen if, this is the projection of results if nothing else is done. If nothing else is done is doing a lot of lifting in that sentence, and the fact that there's multiple elected officials, and I'm not standing here by myself this morning, gives me some comfort that that will not happen. That the city will take action just as it did before, and that the deficits that were projected will be addressed. But I don't want to bury the lead. The deficits are significant, and they're already here. So this year's budget is $110 million in revenues and expenses. The $110 million includes $32 million that must be spent on employee pensions because of how it's collected. It's from a tax and from state aid. The city does not have discretion on whether to put that $32 million into the pension plans. It must by state law. The city's budget has $23 million in pension contributions. You could quickly do the math there and see that the difference is the problem. If I have to collect $32 million and I've only accounted for 23 of that going back in, then I have about an $8 to $9 million hole. So we have to add that, $8 to $9 million to the expenses, taking it from $110 to $118 million, and you don't have $118 million in revenue in the budget. So $8 million deficit is already here. And there are ways to deal with that, and there are some things that hedge against that. So while that's a big, scary number, it's not cause for panic right now. What it is cause for, though, is attention, because it grows next year. This year's budget has about $3 to $4 million in what we would call non-recurring revenue in the budget. Two things primarily. First, and they both happened almost simultaneously. First, we went into the coronavirus pandemic, and the federal government provided a large amount of federal stimulus money, which is now almost spent. It's been partially used to cover operating expenses on an annual basis. The amount of money that was given and the time to use it are both almost up. Even if the city had used the money differently, you have to use it by the end of this year. But that additional money that has been helping to pay for salaries, health insurance, electricity, all of those things, that money is almost gone. The second thing was the city did a prepayment arrangement with the Erie Waterworks, where the city leases the water system to the waterworks, and just like a tenant paying money to a landlord, the waterworks pays money to the city. What the waterworks did, and what the city agreed to, and was fine in principle, was that the waterworks would pay a large amount up front, and basically as if they had paid all their rent in a short period of time. The city took that upfront money, and used parts of it to pay down its debt. Remember our three-headed dragon, the first head was the debt. The issue is that the debt that they paid down took what the city owed, about $9 million, to zero for a number of years. Effectively zero in 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Now this year, the zero becomes $2 million, because that money that you use in the water lease proceeds does not last forever. Next year it goes to 3, then to 5, then eventually to 10, pretty much back where we were before, actually a little bit higher because you've had to issue debt to do the public works and public safety complex. So that $8 million that we have today, once we back out that non-recurring revenue, grows to close to 11 or 12. So here's the good news. The good news is the city is not at risk to run out of cash. Actually, relative to a lot of cities, Erie's in a pretty good place. Some places need to borrow money early in the year to pay their expenses until their tax revenues flow in. Erie is not in that situation. Erie also has a decent amount of reserves, although they've been dwindling over time, including a portion that may be available to help close the immediate deficit. Erie's finance staff and others are working to try and figure out if that's possible, but Erie has cash and is not at risk to run out of money, bounce your paychecks. It's not even right now a candidate to go into Commonwealth financial distress. If you're thinking about the Act 47 concept, if you applied right now, you wouldn't get in because you're not eligible. The other good news is that one of the three heads of the dragon, the pension head, has been largely dealt with. And if you work in Erie or you live here, you've been part of that. The distressed pension tax has helped to put money into the plan. Now, those contributions are really high. $32 million, a third of your budget goes to the pension. But the good news, in as much as it exists, is that that number will start to come down. But we have to put into the pension plan what we collect under the law. So there's a significant challenge ahead. Again, an $8 million deficit that's already here. It was here on January 1st. We just didn't know it. That deficit grows to $12 million next year, and it doesn't get smaller going into the distance. Our full report will lay out the trends as to why this is. We'll talk a little bit more about the progress. But the key thing is that the city needs to start to take action now. And the fact that we have these folks behind us gives me some comfort that you will.
Thanks, Gordon. Thank you so much. How he does that off the top of his head, I think, is impressive. He's told me it's not his first rodeo, but still, thank you, Gordon, for your work and the work of your team. This is a lot of information, and I understand that, and it is impressive that Gordon could do it off the top of his head, but I think you see that it's a very, very complicated problem, and we will be able to share more details this evening. We will be holding a study session here with City Council in Council Chambers at 5:30, and we'll be able to really do a deep dive and help you and the public understand what we're facing. But I want to be really, really clear about this. We learned of this issue about a month ago and immediately got to work. We assembled our strategic leadership team, our department heads, to begin to talk about cost savings. We began to act immediately because we don't believe we can wait. We've talked about immediate cost savings. We've begun thinking about ways to get more efficient. We also are exploring every single revenue source available to us to address the structural imbalance that Gordon mentioned between our revenue and our expenses. We have a gap to deal with this year. We also have an ongoing structural problem, and that will require that we deal with both expenses and with revenue. While we continue to take these steps, PFM's next step is to meet with our city departments to do a management audit of our city operations in order to develop and propose larger initiatives that will address both our financial and operational challenges. All of this work will culminate in PFM's development of a comprehensive strategic management planning program document that the city can adopt and implement. That plan will prioritize initiatives based on urgency, feasibility, and the administration's strategic goals. We hope to have that plan complete by August of this year so that we can use it to inform the development of our 2027 budget. I want to be very clear that the city is committed to transparency completely and fully, and I would say even brutally, throughout this process, beginning tonight with the public study session at 5:30. We've also have a dedicated page on our website that's going live this morning that includes frequently asked questions about the city's budget and about the information that's being shared today. We'll be announcing on that site and on our social media opportunities for public engagement sessions in the next few weeks for both employees and residents to come in and ask questions about what this means for them. I want to be clear, this is not a one-step process. This is a series of decisions that we will need to make that will build on one another, and we are prepared to do that methodically and responsibly. And while I'm certainly focused on these issues, more than you can possibly imagine, as mayor, I'm also viewing it through the lens of a resident and a taxpayer. I understand that people will have questions about their jobs and about their taxes and about the services and what this means to them. So let me be clear, the city is still operating. We have a responsibility to our residents and we have to provide services. We remain committed to our core values of care, excellence, and trust, and we're committed to protecting city services and making sure that our residents receive that care and the excellent service that they deserve. These issues did not happen overnight, and the solutions will not come that quickly either. But I promise you that we will make the necessary decisions, we will be transparent, and we will stand with you as we address this challenge. That's the standard that we're setting moving forward from today. Our focus is not on the past and how this happened, it's on taking responsibility for what comes next. It's about stabilizing the city now and making sure the decisions we need to make will secure a stronger, more sustainable future for the Erie that comes after us. So as always, we will get through this together. Stay tuned for PFM's recommendations as they come along and for further community engagement opportunities. Please consider joining us tonight at City Council study session. I want to thank Gordon again for being with us, for traveling here to be with us for these presentations. He will be presenting tonight, and I really want to thank City Council for being here as well. Thank you all so much. I and Gordon will answer questions, and City Council, it's up to them if you want to include them. But we're going to answer questions right here at the mic, so happy to answer questions from the press. Thank you.